Okay, we're live. This is happening. Shabbat Shalom. As you can see, I'm in a different environment. And I want you guys to kind of see, all you people that are online, the people on the other side. So I haven't had people on the other side of a camera. And I'm echoing. Okay. Um, it's been a long time. I was like, I'm a little nervous. I mean, I get there's other people on the other side of the live when I'm live, but not other people on this other side of the camera, besides Lauren, and you're not nobody. So I don't mean it that way. On the other side. So I want you guys to see the people on the other side of my camera. So let me see if I can make that happen. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Okay, now turn this to this and then spotlight this. And then, so wave, say hi, say hi. So these are all the people that make what I do, what we do happen. And we actually happen to be in one space at one time. So that's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Okay, I just wanted to do that before we got going. That gives people a chance to get in and get ready. Today we are in First Samuel. Oh, no, we're not. Nope. We're going to do this again. Today we are in Second Samuel chapter 12. 2 Samuel chapter 12. It's one of those, it's another heavy one. It starts off heavy, but it ends on the up. It ends on the up. So I want to give you guys that. So we're going to cover a few things today. If you've been here before, then you kind of know the routine. But for those of you, this is your first time jumping in, 2 Samuel chapter 12. We journey through the text. And the text that we've been going through for a while now is 1st and 2nd Samuel. Well, we finished 1st Samuel and we're in 2nd Samuel. And we're in chapter 12. We're almost halfway finished with 2nd Samuel. And what we're going to be doing is looking at, once again, David, looking at the characters. We pull out cultural nuggets, but we also bring in all the different elements of Torah. So I know when a lot of people say, oh, she's going through 1st Samuel or 2nd Samuel, you think it's like, oh, we're just reading through the text. No, we're bringing in things from all over the Bible that speak to this particular time, but that also go forward and speak to where we are right now. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to unveil it, open it up, and look at it. The introduction today, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to give you some of my thoughts throughout the week because there were a lot of thoughts leading up to this. And oftentimes when we begin looking at a text or we begin studying, what we do is we look at what's right there in front of us and we're trying to piece things together. And then once we've pieced it together, or what we seem to think is pieced together, we move on to the next thing. But how the scripture works is it becomes a part of us. I think it becomes a part of our DNA. It becomes a part of who we are as a person. And it begins to like transform and move and shift things in us. And it brings new things to the surface. The beauty of studying the word and studying it from not only different angles and vantage points, never a different perspective. The perspective is but the lens or the angle we look at it at gives us the ability to, how can I put it? It gives us the ability to understand Yah's expectation for us, but it also allows us to use our personal experiences, our knowledge, and things that we've learned to bring them into one place. So we're going to kind of do that in the beginning. I'm going to go with a bit of psychology at the beginning, because I want us to look at something that happens in our brains when we get into specific situations, because I don't know if it bothers anybody else but me. It could be just my own tick. But for somebody who is, I used this word earlier, larger than life, like David, right? How he's out, he's battling, he's overcoming. He talks about how he's fighting lions. He ain't never scared. Like the whole nine is happening. And he's actually following Yah. When he makes a mistake, he's quick to repent. And then we end up in this tiny microcosm of a world where it just seems like everything begins to fall apart. And I know we've all experienced this with people and leadership. We're like, when they fall apart, it seems like we fall apart. Well, I definitely entered into that space over the past probably month, just knowing that this was coming about and then teaching it. When you see somebody like David stumble, you wonder, well, what is there left for me? What am I going to do? Because I'm over here and I think I'm like this big, like literally like this big. And if he can't keep it up, then how can I? But Yah does something wonderful, is that he shows us the story, he gives us his word, and he gives us a way to look at it, introspect, and then put what we learn from our culture and from what Yah does in this moment into action, to not only fortify ourselves against those same kind of struggles and things, but to also know that when we do, not if, but when we do fall, stumble, that there is a path and a track to get on, to get back to him. But what I want to bring out this week is, even more so, being reactive to our sin, how can we look at our traumas and things that call and be proactive to our sin? What's the proactive process of looking inside, dealing with ourselves about these things first before they manifest into something bigger that now takes a Yah level of covering? Not that introspection doesn't, but takes a Yah level of covering to get back, to get us back on track. So that's kind of where we're going to start this week. So before I even get into the text, I want to just kind of go back over some things that were in my head this week. So we know from last week that David sinned presumptuously. We know without a shadow of doubt, and we'll further verify that this week, that he sinned and he knew what he was doing was against Yah and against Torah. Okay. And we addressed how baffling it was that a man like David, who had walked so closely to Yahuwah, could stumble at something so seemingly futile. But we know that that's could potentially be the case, because Adam literally walked in the garden with Yah, saw him face to face, and he knew the one rule literally that he had, and he stumbled on that one. So we know that it is not a if, but a when. And David stumbled on something that we think is futile. I'm going to show you that it wasn't futile. There was a root and a seed that was planted a long time ago that I think the psychological side led to this particular moment. And it shows up in how he's reproved in this particular moment, that led to adultery and murder. So we know from 1 Samuel that Saul, right, had tried to use his daughter to become a snare for David. So we know David's falling is not just behind women. It's not like, oh, women just got David stumbling all over the place. It wasn't his case. David was like, nope, I'm right here. I'm focused. He was like Samuel, right? Like blinders on. It's Yah. So while Saul tried to use something in a negative to cause David to stumble, he turns it and turns into necessarily a positive, because she loves him and she actually helps him escape, and all these things happen. So when I was in the process of trying to understand trauma, see, we don't ever give ourselves, especially people of color, especially Hebrew Israelites, a chance to assess our trauma and see how our trauma leads to actions later on. And so when trauma is suppressed, and we might even know it as trauma, it may just be like, this was just my life. I know I was one of those people where this is just how I grew up. Like, I didn't see these little things as traumas. It was just what it was. And I'm an adult now, and I seem like I'm doing good for myself. I've overcome. But we don't realize that all those little things, the little things that people say, the little comments that people make, the little, looks and things that we take inside and we harbor and we bear them deep, deep down, that those are the things that the adversary can take and just tick, 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 tap on those things and make those the focal point of a later moment in our life. And they all come literally crashing down upon us at one time. So we're going to kind of look through, and I'm looking through this particular lens, David's trauma with women. Just David's trauma with women, not everything else. I'll pick it a couple, but David's trauma specifically with women. David's trauma with women started when he got to Saul's house. And everybody was like, wait, what? Yes, David's trauma with women. He didn't have problems. He was nurturing. He was gentle. He was caring. He was like wet behind the ears, right? I'm keeping my father's sheep. He knew how to nurture. He knew how to care for something. He wasn't some hardened man who grew up in a home where he wasn't able to be a man. He had to fight for his right to be a man. He had to prove something to his older brothers. Like, no, even when he came out with his little ruddy self, brothers already out to battle, he was like, I got this for Yah. Like, he was like, he had a light, right? And so he thought, right? Life was just going to be, I'm coming, I'm serving the king. The king lets me come into his house. He meets Jonathan, him and Jonathan hit it off. He's like, man, I got friends. Like, this is working out for me. And then Saul, who is being used by the adversary, is used to be instrumental in disrupting an area in his life that literally years later begins to surface. So let's look at it. I'm going to pull up the text so you guys are like, what is she talking about? She went all the way back to 1 Samuel. Let's look at it. 1 Samuel, and we're going to start in 1 Samuel chapter 18. And we're going to get, let's look right about verse 14. Okay. So we're going to see the disposition of David and how the scripture report on his actions, and then we'll look at everything else in there. It says, and David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and Yahuwah was with him. Wherefore, when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David because he went out and came in before them. So he was an example. Like came out, they saw how he acted, right? And Saul said to David, behold, my elder daughter, Merab, her will I give thee to wife. Only be thou valiant for me and fight Yahuwah's battles. For Saul said, let not mine hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. And David said unto Saul, who am I? And what is my life or my father's family in Israel that I should be son-in-law to the king? So David right away, he wasn't like, no, I don't want her. No, he was like, what? Like, I was a poor little shepherd boy. Like, my family's not nobody. And the king wants to give me his daughter. And then, I mean, she Hebrew, so she was fine, right? So he's like, her? Like, she, for me? All I got to do is go out and fight and do what Yah told me to do? Oh, easy money. Like, so he's not like, oh, no. No, he's just like, he's blown away. He's like, for him, think about it. A person like Dave, like Yah giving Adam Chawah, like bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, somebody for me. Like David's doing all this, he's serving, but who does he have to partner with him? He was of age. He was like, wow, like it blew him away. Just like when Adam was given Chawah, it blew him away. Let's continue. And it says, but it came to pass at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given unto Adriel, the Maholathite, to wife. Imagine that. All this time you go out to battle. When it's rough out there, you see in movies where you're looking at the girl's picture, like, I'm out here for you. I mean, I'm here for Yah, but you too, girl. Like, he's out there. He's like, all I have to do is just continue to do what I've already been told to do. It's nothing. And then he's starting to, like, she's mine, so I can feel something for her. Like, in Israelite culture, like, if somebody says something is yours, it's as good as yours. So you don't think he started to, like, love her, and he's looking at her like, man, when I get my own house and we move in and we like, it had been planned. They lived in the same vicinity, so no, they didn't sleep with each other, and that wasn't the case. But there had to be like, dang, like, you're watching this person and they're watching you, and they're like, this is gonna be really nice. Like, she's for me, right? And then you turn around, and when the moment arrives, when it's like, all right, it's like my wedding day, and this person is supposed to, and then it's like, you all dressed up, you ready, and showered and twisted his locks and stuff. He was like, I'm ready, girl. Let me tell you something. And then he's like, knock at the door. She's been given to old dude over there. That's his wife now. What? Imagine, not talking about a modern day man that we put in our head, but a man who has a heart and broke his heart. Like, but because of David, how he was, okay, that's not what y'all have for me. Right? Like, it wasn't like something, that's not it. So then you have, so then later, his sister she's something else. So then Michal comes along as David's daughter, which is Merab's sister, was like, Daddy, I love him. Right? We fine. Like, she over there, but what about me? And Saul looked and he knew his daughter, right? He said, and then they told Saul that, Michal actually loves David, because it had to be, we don't get the conversation between here, but we know that people are like, damn, that's messed up. Like, you're just gonna, like, wow, like, shoot, like, come on. So he comes to him And he says, somebody comes to him and says, oh, Saul, your daughter, she is actually in love with David. Oh, oh, really? And Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him. He's like, the other one, yeah, he decided, and she's too good for him. That's gonna work out too well. They love each other. I'm not about to give him somebody to love him, right? Like, I'm gonna hurt him, because that was his whole point. He was trying to kill him. So he's like, I know how I can hurt him. I'm gonna hurt him with this. And so then he's like, okay, that didn't hurt him as much as I thought it would. I got something. I'm gonna give him my other daughter, the one who, yeah, she's a hot mess. I'll give her to him, and she'll be a snare to him, and that at the hand of the Philistines may be against him. So he's saying she'll lead him into some form of idolatry. She'll cause him to sin, and then he won't be walking with Yah. And then Yah can then lift his hand from him, and the Philistines can kill him. What's his plan? Wherefore Saul said to David, thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in one of the twain. And Saul commanded his servants, saying, so he's like, you're going to be my son-in-law one way or another. So don't trip, boy. It's okay. Okay. He's just playing him. And Saul commanded his servants, saying, commune with David secretly and say, behold, the king has delight in thee. So like, don't trip about what happened. You know, kings got to do what kings got to do. And so he says, don't trip though. He still has his eye on you. He loves you. Now, therefore, be the king's son-in-law. He's like, okay, I'm going to try this again. And Saul's servant spake the words in David's ears, and David said, seemeth it to you a light thing to be the king's son-in-law? He was like, maybe I went into that kind of fresh behind the ears. Like I took that kind of lightly. Like that's not something that I don't even deserve that. Like the fact that I even felt like I did, like, I'm sorry. He said, seeing that I'm a poor man. So he probably, more than likely, the Maholathite had more than what David had. He was like, he deserves her. He can take care of her. He got some. I'm over here living in the king's house. Like my family, they're just shepherds out here. We don't have it like that. My brothers are just fighters. I get it. Like I get it. And so, and he said, as a poor man, he said, and lightly esteemed. So that was like, it was kind of like a little poke. He's like, nobody holds me in high esteem, even though we know that David is not lightly esteemed. It said the people loved David. They were like, man, David's wonderful. But he was like, I get it. I'm here. It's okay. I know my place. That was kind of his mindset. And the servants of Saul told him, on this manner spake David. So goes to Saul. I got him right where I want him. Thus shall ye say to David, says Saul, the king desireth not any dowry. Don't even worry about the money, man. It's cool. But I want 100 foreskins of the Philistines. Now, the Philistines are bad. Like they're not like light fighters. They're like fighters, right? To be avenged of the king's enemies. He said, avenge me of my enemies. Yah's enemies too. So David's like, that's light work, right? So, but Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines, because it's not normal, for one man to kill 100 men, let alone 1,000 men, let alone 10,000 men, right? So he was like, okay, I'm going to send him, this little foreshadow, out to battle, and I'm going to pull the line back. And then David will fall, right? Right? And when his servants told David these things, it pleased David, because it pleased him well to be the king's son-in-law. He's like, if I got to fight, even if I have to fight on the front line of a hot battle, I'll do it because I'm a servant to the king. Tracking where I'm going with this. Okay. And when his servants told David these words, it pleased him to be, the son of the king's son-in-law, and the days were not expired. He didn't sit on it. He wasn't like, all right, I'm gonna wait. No, he was like, let's do it right now. Like, we can let's handle this. I can, come on. So David went up, and he and his men and slew the Philistines 200 men. He was like, 100 ain't even enough. I'll do 2 just to prove to you that when you step into where I'm good. Like I got this part. 200 men, and David brought their foreskins. He gave him double what he asked for. And they gave them the full tale to the king, that he might be the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him Michal, his daughter, to wife. All right. And Saul saw and knew that Yahuwah was with David, and that Saul's daughter loved him. And Saul was yet more afraid of David, and Saul became David's enemy continually. That's one part. So you can see David had to fight for what was his, right? He's like, the first one they took from me, I didn't have what it took to have her, I guess. Second one, he's like, not this one. So he's not this guy's like, I don't need a wife. I don't want no woman. I'm good. I'm a lone ranger. I'm just a fighter. Like, no, David, we know from his heart, from what we read through scripture, he's a gentle and compassionate man. It takes a person that already has a particular character set to stay soft for Yah through war, through battle, through loss, through a bunch of other things, right? So then what happens? What goes on? Let's look at 1 Samuel 26. And right around I think it's toward the end. I think it's 26. Somebody grab me that verse. It's I think it's in chapter 26 when David finds out, or when it says that David's wife was given to Phaltiel. And I'll keep going. You can just post it in the thing. So then you have David, right? After this, he gets his wife. Everything seems to be relatively good in that sense. And then Saul starts pursuing David. And then David has to flee. He has to flee and he leaves his wife behind. Can't take your wife into the wilderness. So once again, his heart breaks. Remember, he cries and weeps when he finds out that Saul is really trying to kill him. And him and David and Jonathan have to part ways. And it's like, he tells Jonathan, like, man, like, I gotta go. Like, your dad's trying to kill me. He's like, yeah, you have to go. Like, run and y'all be with me. I'm gonna take care of what's yours. You take care of what's mine. They make their little covenant, not little, but their covenant. And he goes about his way. So David heart breaks again. Not only does he lose a friend, right? He loses the only place he's called home. He has to leave his wife behind, the wife that he fought for, and then turn around. And then Saul, in an effort, once again, to hurt David, gives David's wife. Now, this is not like Merab. This is a completely different situation. He gives David's wife to another man to marry. Now, first of all, it was wrong for the man to take David's wife, according to Torah, somebody else's wife. I don't know what, maybe being a woman, maybe thinking David was dead, maybe he was, I don't know. We don't know from the text. But then Michal takes the man and they become a thing. Because we know in 2 Samuel, he calls over to Ishbosheth. He's like, hey, give my wife. Like, I fought for her. And you can tell now, like, how that stirred up something. Like, she's mine. Not in the sense of, like, she's my possession. No, that's my wife. And so David, people look at David and he's like, David had multiple wives and they try to make this a landing ground and make a doctrine off of it. But that wasn't David's original heart. Now, David gets other wives on the road, but that's after all this. That's after a lot. I know a lot of men who are in that position where they started off, most guys, if you've had guy friends and you heard these stories where they was like in love with one girl, right? And they was like 7. Ooh, this girl when I was like, or a teenager, or like my first love, and she broke my heart. And then that just did it for him. Now, that didn't necessarily happen to David, but it did put him in a position where he did take another wife because the other one he had wasn't his anymore. I'm gone. I don't know if I'll ever be able to go back. And he wasn't like a eunuch. Like, he was just like, okay, well, I may never go back home. This may be my life. I'm out here in the wilderness. And he meets Abigail and then the just real righteous woman. And he's like, okay, like it softened something I think that he probably had a very strong conviction about in the beginning. So you have this as the basis, if you will, for David's mindset and a trauma. And so you see David going through a lot leading to the actual time with Bathsheba. His heart had been broken. He had been pursued unto death. He lost his best friend. His reputation, his character had been challenged. And just when it all seemed to be coming back together, the woman that he got back was like, hey, you don't really even love Yah. Out here dancing. And he's just like, wow. Like, I just want to be happy. Like, whoa, this is insane. And I know we've all been there. So we can't be like, oh, that couldn't be David. No, we've all been there. It's like, I just want a normal life. I just want somebody to love me. I want somebody to come home to, somebody I can talk to, come home from work. Can you rub my head? Can you wash my locks? Can you just, I mean, being real, like these are real things. If you've ever, like I said, if you've been married for sure, but if you've had a male friend, like, I just want somebody just to be for me. Like, that's just it. And no other person's narrative exemplifies such high highs and such low lows. Like, he had some serious high highs, but then he had some serious low lows, and most of them were not even his fault. So imagine what that does to a young man who comes into a place, a teen, going into a grown man. Like, all of his life was just like, it seemed to be plagued with trauma. I'll tell you this one thing, just in case this is the last thing you hear. His job was to see it all in Yah. All of his companionship, the fortress, everything should have been encompassed in Yah. That's what Yah was teaching him. The word was batak. Like, he was supposed to trust Yah. Everything is fortified. Remember when you're out with the sheep? That was me and you. It always has to be me and you. It's something for us. It always has to be us and him. Everything else is an added bonus. If it's stripped down to nothing and no one, is it still just you and him? And can you still hold on to that? So psychologically, I began to think about what could make a person like David do what he did. And I was like, he's a man, he's a human. He's not some fictional character that's larger than life. He's a normal person. Yeah, I can see it. Like, I can just see it. Like, if that didn't, that would make him like some kind of superhero. Like, you could just take the punches and never feel like beat up, never feel defeated. That's not the case. We have the Psalms to tell us otherwise. He went through those high highs and those low lows emotionally. And so I started thinking, David had a void. Like, after a while, it didn't matter how many wives he took. It didn't matter what his life was like. It was like, he still never got over, like, not that we should, but he still never got over this place of like, am I really nothing? Like, cause he knows we all do, like, nothing, but I don't know if there was like this combination of things, like, and then you get war fatigue. Have you ever heard of Drika? You could probably attest to that, where a person goes out to war and after fighting for so long, you get like, it's just like, is this ever going to be over? Like, and it sinks in and it causes the person to almost go a little like they just kind of click. And it's just like, they get stuck in this place. And it's just like, and it's not, they just stop. It's like, I can't do anymore. I can't take anymore. No more. And so we know that David is battling. Kings go out to war. I'm just going to go out to war again. Like, why can't I just be home with my kids? Why can't I just, you start thinking like we all do, and thoughts go through your head. And he's restless when we get, so you see, I gave it to you from both ends, and I'm grateful to Yah for doing that. Like, tell it like it is, but then also think about people. Think about what goes on with people before we make assessments. Now, yeah, we can't change what happened. We don't want to romanticize who David is, but at the same time, now let's look at how a person can come to that conclusion, how a person could end up in that situation. And so you have him, and everything seems to be going good in the kingdom, but then there's this like little undercurrent thing in his house. I got this wife that been with this other man, and I got all these other wives. And what jumped out to me is that he must have taught the same thing to his son, because Solomon writes something that kind of offended me. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, is this how Yah feels about women? Right? And Ecclesiastes, David's son, Solomon, writes, "Behold, this have I found, saith the preacher, counting one by one to find out the account, which yet my soul seeketh, but I find not. One man among 1,000 have I found, but a woman among all these I have not found. Lo, this only have I found, that Yah hath made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions." I like, he at least found one man, but he ain't found one good woman. Right. And I'm not saying he taught him to think that women were bad, because we know that Solomon had 1,000 women. So he's looking based upon his own environment and what he had taken to him. He didn't find one that was righteous. He looked around and said, I didn't heap to myself 1,000 women. Scripture actually says that Solomon loved strange women. It literally says that. He loved them. He loved the Amorites and the Hittites and the Canaanites and the Cardiites and all those. He was like, I love this I love. Okay. And they ended up turning his heart away from Yah. But what we see is Solomon dealt with that same void. But what Solomon's resolve was what his mom taught him, but who can find one? One, just one. That was also taught in his home. So what he ended up doing wasn't what was passed down through his home. And I'm going to prove that to you this week in Psalm 51. David taught righteousness in his home. That was part of the reason why he didn't die. Okay. So you have this thing happening, right? This idea of, in David's mind, I guess, of what love and relationship is, and that constantly being just shot down, shot down, shot down. And eventually it's like, oh, this must not be what it's all about. It must be about fortifying your home, making sure you have enough sons so that you can continue your lineage and you become practical. Don't we all? I know I've been there, where it's like, love is not working for me, so let me become practical. Let me marry because we both have the same values, and let me marry because we both want to raise children like this, and we put love on the back burner. But then there's this like undercurrent thing where it's like, but I still need that. Like, I want somebody to get excited when they see me coming, and I want to get excited when I see them coming. I don't want to say, oh, did you pay the bills? And did you do this for the children? And did you do X, Y, and Z? No, you want somebody to look at you and make you go, ooh, like, shoot, okay. Like, you want that. We all do it. It's not an unrighteous thing to desire. But because of traumas, we can put that to the back burner and then do what's practical. And what was practical was men married so they could have more children, so they could have sons, so that they could have people to work and do things. And that became what seemed like to be the focus. It became wealth. Nobody will ever say, I'm nothing. Look at this. Not in a bragging way, but I have more than enough. I have more than enough sons. I have, because it wasn't no shortage of women having a lot of babies. David had, from what we know, one mama, right? And she had sons. Like, she birthed a plethora of strong, able men. So that wasn't necessarily the case. If you wanted 10 sons, one woman could have 10 sons. There's a lady right now, the 21 count lady, she got 20 kids. Like, I'm just saying, it wasn't something that was unthought of. If you start having kids at 15, like, through your childbearing years, you could have a kid every year. Like, it wasn't unheard of. I'm just saying, it wasn't the only way to get it done, but it became a faster way to produce, to gather to yourself more seed. So we all get into that place where we feel like, well, the next man, the next woman, people get married and divorced and married again. This person will make it all right. Okay, well, she seems to be like Abigail. Wow, like, she got a heart for y'all, got a heart for y'all. Maybe that wasn't what it was supposed to be. Maybe it's supposed to be her. You're like, and you're looking for this thing, what you're looking for, like Adam did, where one animal passed by, like, that's nope, not my is there negato. Nope, that's not my equal opposite. Nope, that's not my help meet, or my helper, the person that's supposed to help me actualize and I help them. Nope, not that one. And then when he finally sees, he's like, oh, that's the one, right? It's like that process. Well, David seemed to be in that same thing, only he wasn't a bad guy. This is what proves David was a bad guy. He was just like, I'm gonna sleep with her. I'm gonna try that one out. No, he's like, I'm a marrier and I'm a marrier and now he has all these things he has to take care of. Why? Because he's like, I can't just try it. That's not Torah. I got, if I try it and get to know it, I gotta take care of it forever. So he ends up with a bunch of different women, but none seem to quite meet the qualification for what he actually, the void that he had. That makes sense? Okay. So when you get into the text, when you get into 2 Samuel chapter 11, and David goes out and he's walking out on the rooftop, right? And he can't sleep. Then my heart kind of got sad, and it makes me sad. I guess I'm one of these like super like empathetic people to people who feel he have nobody to talk to. House full of people, servants, wives, plural. You didn't have one wife that was like, baby, come here. What's wrong? Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody was like, well, he ain't going out to battle. Is something wrong with him? Nobody thought to check in on David. He didn't have one person be like, hey, man, you good? It's David. I'm sure he's good. Right? Nobody was like, you can't sleep at night. And you couldn't be like, hey, babe, let me tell you something. I'm kind of got this thought going on in my head and I'm trying to hash it out. And like, I'm feeling unsettled, but I don't really know what it is. And nobody was like, let me listen. Everybody seemed to be just like about, nope. For me, I'm a little empathetic in this way because I'm that person. But my husband, if in the middle of the night I'm asleep and he gets out of the bed, he cracks up because I come out like a zombie. I'd be like, ah, you okay? Like what happened? He's like, oh, so he could be like, oh, my stomach hurt, or oh, my da-da-da. I couldn't sleep. I didn't want to wake you up. But just to be like, oh, he's like, what is that? Like, you just know, like, what there had to, like, that had to feel terrible. So he got up out of the bed. Maybe he slept by himself because he had so many wives, but it couldn't have been just about sex. It just, like, he could have gotten it like anywhere. If it was just like, I need to get some so I go back to sleep, that wasn't the case. It couldn't have been the case. There was too much to be gotten for that to be the case. And he's the king, and that's your husband. And in our culture, you don't turn it down. Like, it would be like, okay. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened. Quite to the contrary is what happened. He goes and gets up. Nobody comes. And then when he finally comes and inquires, like, it seemed like nobody was around. Someone said, like, it wasn't like, and this specific person or this, he asked, like, hey, who is, and the person he brings, it doesn't even name the person. Like, how can you be that high in life? You're the king. You've, like, Israel loves you. You brought the kingdom together, and there's no one to even give you wise counsel. Where are all the counselors? Where are all the scribes? Where are all the wise men? So he literally starts off Psalms, literally like, do not sit with these people. Because he's like, I've had that around me. I didn't have wise counsel. I went out and I asked somebody, like, oh yeah, and then just keep passing. It was like, hey, who was that? And they're like, oh, that's off to be busied with something else. Like, nobody even, you see how, like, the whole setup now seems different? It's like, dang, like, it wasn't like his wives are beating down his door. What are you doing in there? Nobody even saw her come. She came and went. And nobody was like, hey, who was over here last night? Because that'd be me. First of all, when got through the door, excuse me? Who brought you here to this house? Must have been a mistake. Must have been. That wasn't even the case. It was like nobody was around. It was like he was just like out there. So when we get to this moment where all this stuff goes down, there's a place that David's in. We're going to see throughout the rest, we'll get to the text now. We're going to see throughout the text that this trauma, or whatever it is, whatever void he had, adversary used that void. He was like, oh, because if you were satisfied, right, mentally, physically, emotionally, a naked woman wouldn't have caught your eye. You got fine all through your house. Like, he wasn't marrying like Broomhilda. Like, it was like Naomi Campbell's and like themses was in there. It wasn't like he couldn't be like, hey, let me see you naked. Like, that, he's David. Like, come on. There are plenty of single women. If he just wanted to add another wife, it was beyond that. His heart and his mind were in a place, and he used the thing that he was void, and that thing became more. So we know that obviously he calls her, she comes to the house, the whole thing. And then we went over it last week, he kills Uriah. So when the prophet comes to the text now, when the prophet comes to David, I think it's interesting that he's going to employ, when we talk about the psychology of it all, he's going to employ a psychological tactic called projection. He's going to make David take what's inside. He's going to take, I was going to have him do it. Take what's inside David, all the turmoil he's going through, he's going to put it in a story and put it right in front of him. Right in front of him. So I don't have to explain the story. So that's why I gave so much in the beginning. We're going to read through exactly what he says. I'm going to show you the Torah behind it all. We're going to look at Yah's reaction to everything, because Yah hasn't said anything yet. And we're going to look at David's response, and then ultimately David's response and his action. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. Let me share my screen. Okay. We're going to 2 Samuel chapter 12. Starting at verse 1. Move over my toolbar thingy. And it says, and Yahuwah sent Nathan unto David, and he came unto him. Now we got to stop there. Look at brief. Wow. Can't get past that, because who wants to be Nathan? Not me. Not me. I'm sure not you, and not anybody else. See, I know our people. I don't know if y'all know our people, but we prophet killers. That is the nature of our people. You think I'm lying? Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 30. In vain have I smitten your children. He said, in vain have I spanked them. They receive no correction. Your own sword hath devoured your prophets like a destroying lion. If you haven't read Jeremiah, he does a lot of that. Prophet killers. Okay. Let's go and see. Now, obviously, this is all of these are later, but you get it. We've been killing our prophets for a long time. Matthew chapter 23, verse 37. O Jerusalem, O Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stone them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wing, and ye would not. Okay. I'll give you the last one. Nehemiah 9:26. Nevertheless, they were disobedient and rebellious against thee, and rebelled against thee, and cast thy law behind their backs, and slew thy prophets which testify against them, to turn them to thee, and they wrought great provocations. So what we know about our people, that's just a few prophet killers. When a prophet has to go to a person, that is not something that a prophet is just quick to. I mean, they're quick to do it because Yah tells them to do it, but that's not something that person's like, hey, that's who I want to be. I want to be the person that has to be essentially the bearer of bad news because y'all know how to act. Imagine Nathan. He at home. I don't know if he had wives, kids, but he's at home. He's just chilling. And then all of a sudden, he's like, Yah's like, Nathan, I got something to tell David. He don't know what's going on. He wasn't even there. He's like, am I tripping? Like, so you, in my imagination, because he wasn't there, he didn't see it. I perceive that David has killed Uriah and Bathsheba's pregnant and he's not, what? This must be a dream. I'm about to go back to sleep. How crazy do you have to feel to be a person that sees into things more than other people? That anybody ever feel crazy like that? Like you like, I think it's something more to that. But you only feel it. Don't nobody else. And then y'all's like, and speak to it. The person doesn't even realize that they're doing it. Nobody else sees it. They think you just being picky. Right? And you have to be that person that shows up with no evidence. You wasn't there. You don't have a first-hand account of what happened, except for Yah told you to say it. That has to be the most uncomfortable job in the world. On top of that, you're not perfect. So you got your own stuff going. Y'all still working on you. You're like, I'm about to go tell who that they was doing what? What if I'm wrong? They're going to kill me. So on top of that, you got to make sure you heard like you heard him before you go and say what you think you said, what you think you heard or what you felt in your spirit. That's rough. Okay. So you have Nathan going to David. He ain't done nothing wrong ever. Like, not like that. I mean, like he knew what he did with Uzzah with the cart. Like, and there, I mean, but for the most part, it's like David has walked. He's wise. He moves. All of a sudden you get the tap, tap, tap that David then tripped out. And I have to be the person that goes to him. Send somebody else. Like Jonah, I'm going to Nineveh. I mean, I'm not going there. I'm going to Tarshish. Like, you're like, I can't, like, this is insane. And that's exactly what happened. So I wrote my notes. The uncomfortable position of Yah's messenger. You know how many nice things that people who sit in that seat could say? You know how many things I read on the news and I'm like, that would make a really good Shabbat study. You know how many words I come across? I'm like, I did this week I did comfort. I'm like, somebody would really like to hear about this word. I think this Shabbat, since we're all getting together, we're going to talk about comfort because that word really made me feel good when I did a word study this week. I was like, no. We're going to talk about the uncomfortability of being in a very uncomfortable position over and over and over again, because that's what this whole text is about. So many people desire the position of a prophet, teacher, preacher, because they they like what they think are the perks that come with it all, right? They're like, oh, okay. You see, today we see a lot of prophets for hire. So they got a lot. They're normally wealthy and they got all the frills. Why? Because they say things that people want them to say. And guess what? People pay you to say what they want to hear. Oh, people pay you to say what they want to hear. Like, I like clicking on this. It makes me feel good about myself, even though I'm nothing and I'm terrible and I'm doing all these vile things. This feels good. She told me my Christmas tree was okay. This is amazing. Right? So you have people, there are prophets that are in that position where they get up and they say, oh, you know what? You can have a Christmas tree because you see, Christmas tree represents an evergreen. It means something that, you know, is alive. And so you can cut it down at the root and it can still live in your house. It is a miracle. It represents the resurrection. And then you can take that Christmas tree and then you can wrap it with silver and gold. And that shows the wealth of Israel. And then you can take those balls and it shows the cyclical nature of Torah. And then you can even write little, I'm gonna stop because somebody's gonna take me seriously. You see what I mean? You could seriously take something and then just add a bunch of trash and conjecture to it. And people go, I was thinking that too. Yeah, you want, like we said, you want a consultation instead of confirmation. See, prophets didn't come to give you a confirmation on what you wanted to do. Guess what they did? Excuse me, I'm showing up as a representative for Yah. And he's telling me that you're going to die today if you don't stop doing what you're doing. Okay, well, I'm going to take my briefcase and have a nice day. I don't have no feeling about what I'm telling you. Half time, I don't even know you. It's just what it is. That's the job. And people don't like that because they're like, well, how you just going to come up out of nowhere and tell me you don't know me? No, I do. I know enough because Yah told me to come tell you. And I think I know more than you probably like me to know. Like, but this is what my job is. And so most people want the acknowledgement that comes with the position, but very seldom do the work of bringing the word of Yah to the people. Many spiritual leaders today would not get together and tell the leaders of this country or the nation or even their own family the truth of their infractions against Yah. Like, oh, I can't say that. I can't do that. Mm-mm. Many people brown nose leadership for a position in their phone, for a call, for text. And you don't say, hey, sis, that Christmas tree and your picture that you had online after you was just talking about, I believe in Yah, Fantasia and Torah and all this stuff. That's not okay. See, we don't double back and we don't do those things. We don't say that we're for Yah and then stand in front of phallic symbols of the ancient Babylonian mystery practice and send a mixed message to our people about what it means to stand for Yah. See, you stand for Yah whether you live or die. You stand for Yah even if they kill your children. You stand for Yah even if you end up with nothing and have to live on the streets, because guess what? All of us are going to die anyways. Like, what are you buying a couple of minutes for? Take it. Take the death. Take it as it comes so that you can live on eternally. Don't take the jewels and the clout of this world to end up in hell. What you gonna talk to your person next to you burning up like, oh, it sure was good when we could, sing for people, and won't do no singing for Yah. Got Christmas albums out and ain't sang for Yah the first. Scared to say Yah's name, still saying Jesus. It's a hot mess. But those are not our prophets. They are our prophets. They are called out and they are elect. That's why they have a position. But they are the false prophets who have been turned by Yah. See, Nathan wasn't that kind of guy. Nathan wasn't that dude. I like Nathan. I like Samuel too. I like all the prophets, Jeremiah and Amos, that stood up for Yah. Man, you've had Amos come like, where is Tekoa? Where is that? You look on a map, they're like Tekoa, and place where that of ancient origin that we don't no longer know where it is. We don't even know how to go back and see what Tekoa was like. Right? Like we don't know. But he came and Yah said, now tell them, tell the nations, look, tell these people about what was happening. He's like, I'll do it. I'll show up. He went, told them, and then was like, I am going home. He was like Forrest Gump. Remember Forrest Gump was running, right? And he ran for all that time and he just stopped and he goes, I think I'm going to go home now. That's pretty much the prophets. They're like, I came and did what I was going to do. I'm going to go home now. And we don't ever know if Yah asked some of them to ever do anything ever again. Like, not everybody has a story like Daniel and Jeremiah, where they have this like lifelong, when they're in and out of different captivities and having to, some of them was just like, they showed up and then they left. And that was just it. That was Nathan. So Nathan comes and Yah tells him, I need you to pull out what David is trying to conceal, because what he doesn't realize is, for him to serve me, there are no hidden parts from me. All of his business is my business. And because he chose to make it other people's business, because when you hid it from me, and when you killed the man, and when you didn't come to me, when you had straight line to me, then now I got to go get the prophet. Now I got to put your business on blast. Because if you had just thought it, and maybe if you had just slept with her, maybe I could have just like, all right, we're going to deal with this. We good though. Go and sin no more, right? But because you made it Israel's business, I'm going to make it Israel's business to the point that I'm going to write it down. And guess what? When you get to Psalm 51, David's going to write it down. He's going to say, the Psalm that I wrote when I killed Uriah, like, he has to write it down. It has to be recorded in history, because see, you had me privately, but you want to see how I deal with people publicly? Okay, let's see. Let's look at it. First, 2 Samuel chapter 12. Don't ever estimate these prophets too, because he's like, I'll fight too. No. He's like, he wasn't scared, is the whole point. He's like, I'm not. He's like, for Yah, I live, and for Yah, I die. Today might be the day. So, and Yahuwah sent Nathan unto David, and he came unto him and said unto him, it was just like this, came to the door. There were two men, like, hi? Like, no formalities, no, oh, king, live for. There were two men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. Now, pause. We already dealt with how David felt like poor, low esteem, right? So it's like, it's hidden from the beginning. The rich man had exceedingly many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing save one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished up, and it grew up together with him and with his children. Now remember, David purchased price for his wife, right? You know what it's like to have nothing, to go out, to buy something, to nourish it up, to love it, right? He's like, oh, it did eat of his own meat and drink of his own cup and lay in his bosom and was unto him as a daughter. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take of his own flock and of his own herd to dress for the wayfaring man that was come unto him. So a guy just came, right? And he's like, I got to feed this guy. And he looks out and he got goats and sheep and oxen everywhere. And he looked over, he said, that guy got one. He ain't nobody. Go get his. Now, you know, David's a shepherd, right? So this guy to hit like hard. You don't know what it takes. I don't know if y'all know what it takes to take care of sheep and goats. And you start loving these things because they have personality. It's a whole thing. So that's just the herd. But then you got like one or two. I have one like that, like Judah. If I came home and I fell out, you would see me like ugly cry. I couldn't take it. That's my baby, right? Happens to use a baby. I couldn't take it. So I know in my brain, I'm like, somebody came and was like, killed Judah to feed somebody. Somebody did, like, they wasn't hungry. Like, y'all wasn't starving. Like, there was actually other sheep and goat. I would be okay. I wouldn't be okay. Am I lying? I wouldn't be okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. So for the man comes, but he took the poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man that was come to him. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man. He was hot. You see, I'm getting mad just thinking about it. David was hot. He was hot. Like, he was like, what? Who did that? He was like, livid. So we learned something. You see, David, he went out of his mind. He must have had a mental lapse. He had PTSD. He went out of his mind. David was a very highly functioning human. He wasn't like so depressed that he couldn't get up and he couldn't pass judgment. He didn't know Torah. Not at all. It was literally presumptuous. We know it from this because when he gets the story, he was like, who would do something like that? But this idea of shadow self, another psychological term. See, all of us have been trained to live in dualities. We have the person that we present to people. And then we have the person that we don't want anybody to see us as, right? And when we do things that are out of character, we say, oh, that wasn't me. This is me. That wasn't me. They're both you, by the way. And it is our job. It is a mandated job as Israelites, specifically because we have an enemy who loves playing in the dark, to bring your shadow self to the forefront, to look at those parts of yourself, to examine yourself so that you don't misrepresent now, especially in Torah, not just yourself, but yeah. Because if you're constantly misrepresenting yourself, then we go, no, that's you. That's who you want to be, but this is who you are. And see, Yah requires that thing to be brought to the surface. David could see outwardly, but he couldn't see inwardly. It took a second. And so let's look at what he says. Let's just look at it. So he's mad. And he was against the man. Now, mind you, this is a fictional story, kind of, right? This didn't really happen. Nathan is coming with something that is about something, but it wasn't just about a lamb. But see, David was like, I'm mad at him. Who is he? Let me at him. Like that was his mindset. And he said to Nathan, so David goes, he said, as Yahuwah liveth, the man that hath done this thing shall surely die. Freudian slip. See, there was something internal in the dark self, in the shadow self, that he wanted to condemn. And it's easier to condemn something when it sits on the outside and we see things and attributes in other people. We want to say, you need to be morally just. You need to be morally right. And then you know what hurts? When we find out that that person was going through the same thing we were going through, instead of saying, hey, let's go through this together. I'm struggling with this. You tried to push me down for it. Right? It's that thing. So what Yah says is, no. Introspection. If you can't introspect, I will project it. I will put it right in front of you. See, we project to try to fix the person on the outside. I'm going to fix him. And that somehow that'll make me feel better about me. Yah was like, oh, you going to fix him? Okay. So his fix, though, was unlawful. He said, he shall surely die. See, that's how you know David had a whole bunch of internal stuff going on. You're going to kill the man over a lamb. Lamb for life? That is not Torah. That is not the Torah. There is Torah about it, though. Watch this. I'm going to give you what he says, and we'll look at what the Torah says. So he says, this man shall surely die, first thing out of his mouth. And then he shall restore the lamb fourfold. We can't do it if he's dead. So he shall restore the lamb fourfold because he did this thing and because he had no pity. He's like, David caught himself. He was like, he shall restore the lamb because he was like, he don't know. Like I just threw me out there. Reel it back. Fourfold for the lamb. Right? He says, because he has did this thing and because he had no pity. He had no pity. They like hit David. He was like, he wasn't sympathetic to this man's position. This man was just trying to love this little lamb. And he did all this raising it and nobody cared about how it made this man feel. David felt that. He felt that, right? What does the Torah say, though, about taking lambs? Let's go to Exodus chapter 22. See, David was not out of his mind, and David knew Torah so good that I had to look this up. Was not the verse, he knew it, it immediately came back. I was like, I know you have to restore something, but what is the exact thing? See, David went right to it. His judgment was correct and just in that he knew the Torah. Now he went too far when he said the man had died because he was thinking about himself. So it says in Exodus 22, verse 1, if a man shall steal an ox or a sheep and kill it or sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. So he knew, his judgment as a king was impeccable. So I came to him and brought that matter in a normal mindset without all the internal turmoil. He wouldn't have said the man had to die. The story moved him. The story got him going. But he was like, 4 sheep, 4 sheep. He knew what the requirement was. Oh, let's go back to the text. So he goes and let me go back. Put my screen back up. And he says, Nathan said, oh, here go that part that I don't like about this job. Thou art the man. Thus saith Yahuwah. It's not for me. Thou art the man. Could you imagine? I don't know if you guys ever had this feeling, that feeling when your soul sink to the pit of your stomach and all the wind leaves out of you. Like just immediately, it's like I'm undone. That was that moment for David, completely undone. And then Nathan speaks. He says, thus saith Yahuwah. So all these people playing around saying Yah said something, please stop. Oh, please stop. Please stop. Please. Pretty please. With the cherry on top. Thus saith Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel. I anointed thee king over Israel. Facts. Stop lying on Yah. Facts. And I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul. Also, facts. So David's like, that's true. That's true. I can roll with you. True, true. Next statement, true too. And I gave thee thy master's house. True. And thy master's wives into thy bosom. True. And gave thee the house of Israel and Judah. True. And if that had been too little. That's a statement of like, yeah. See, when you hear Yehoshua, y'all think it's just like him coming as himself as a clapback king. Yeah, I've been done that. It's just him doing what he's always done. He said, if that had been too little, like, since that was just like pish posh, nothing, right? I would have moreover given unto thee such and such things. Name it. You was rolling with me. There's nothing I was withholding from you. I even understood your little trauma with the wife thing. So I even let that roll on. I saw it. Like people like, did y'all see David taking all these wives? Yeah, I was like, I saw it. But I was like, okay, it ain't messed up what we had going on. But then all of a sudden, if that had been too little, because we could have had a little conversation about that, but it didn't stop that. You was doing good. You was doing good. Mm-hmm. You messed it up. So he says, wherefore hast thou despised? It's a hard word. I'm about to tell you what it is. The commandment of Yahuwah to do evil in his sight. He said, what about how good Yah's been to you? Made you be so bad to him. Let's look at the word. Share my screen. The Hebrew word for despise the commandment of Yah is the word bazah. Bet. Zayin. Hey. Bazah. And for you that want to read it for yourself, there you go. It literally means, from the 2-letter root, it literally means to cut the house. Literally means to split or divide something. He says, my word is unbroken from beginning to end. What I say comes to pass. And we had a little deal. The division was them out there and us in here. How could you take my commandment, take my word? The word there for commandment is davar. It doesn't say Torah, mitzvah, seva. It's word, all of it. How could you divide my word improperly? See, because when David kills Uriah, David is trying to use Torah. I don't know if anybody ever thought about that. David uses Torah because he knows, he's like, I can't marry a man's wife that's still alive. That would be folly in Israel. I already slept with her. She's already pregnant. Can't kill babies. That's not it. Can't kill Bathsheba. Like some of you did, like get rid of the whole woman. They can't do that. So he's like, how can I get around this with the least amount of casual damage and use the Bible so I can fix this? He said, oh, you use the sword against me. Y'all was like, have you lost your whole entire mind. He says, you used your actions to cause division. It literally means to attack or spoil. It literally means this. So I have a nephew. His name is Dawson. And he has a red-tailed hawk. He's raised it from a baby. It's a wild animal. And it's an animal that preys on other animals, right? And Dawson and I are talking. And he's like, you know, my covenant with this animal is like our covenant with Yah. He's very bright, by the way. He's my whole little. And he goes, mind you, he's a grown man. He's 20-something. Talking about him like he's a child. And he goes, my covenant with this animal is like my covenant with Yah. It's like our covenant with Yah. It's completely upside down. I was like, so what do you mean? He goes, pretty much my agreement with this animal is I feed it and you don't attack me. It's a wild animal. It doesn't know like empathy and relationship, right? And so he's telling me different things about this animal, and I'm like cracking up. He's like, literally just like, don't sink your talons into me. Don't sink your talons into me. What Yah is telling to David is, you're like this animal. See, you had no regard. I'm giving you free. Here's food. Here's life. Here's sustaining. Here's protection. And then you turn around and you stole from me. Literally what that word means is that you attacked me. It literally means for a person to know a person has bounty or something. And I'm giving you what's yours to have, and you turn around and take what's mine. No, my food is my food, like the animal. Your food is your food, right? What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. I'm not going to attack somebody who's doing for me. They say, bite the hand that feeds you, right? Everybody knows that. Yah's like, you bit the hand that was feeding you. You came and it says, and you literally plundered me. You took what was not yours and you forgot that everything is under my protection. He's like, oh. He said, your actions were against me. Ooh. See, we think when we do stuff, when we do certain things, and we say certain things to people, and we treat people a certain way, we think we're doing it to them. But Yah's like, you know, that's my baby. That's mine. I was protecting that. I gave, like, oh, I thought it was just Huldah was doing it too. Oh, you thought. But actually, that's not true. I thought it was just Tanisha. I thought it was just Lauren. I thought, because you just see me as just. You don't see me connected to a source. I'm not just anybody. You're not just anybody. So when the nations do something to us, I thought I was just doing to the niggers. No. No. First of all, that call me by my name. I'm a Hebrew Israelite. Thank you. And spell it right. And then second of all, I'm not just Black. I'm not just the Negro. I am literally the apple of Yah's eye. See, you misrepresented who I was. You put me in the category of what you think I'm supposed to be in your mind, not who I am to him. See, you thought Uriah was just a Hittite. You thought it was just one of your soldiers in your army. You thought it was just Bathsheba's husband. He was actually mine. See, I took him. I called his family out. I'm the one who woke them up. And you just saw him as a stranger. You just saw him as disposable. You missed it. Completely missed it. So Deuteronomy 22 and 22 and Leviticus 20 and 10 tell us the ramifications for adultery. It's death. There's no way to get around it. Like it's cut and dry. I didn't have anything special to say in that moment. So we're going to finish looking at what Yah tells to David through the prophet Nathan. So he says, you've done this evil in in his sight. Talking about, yeah, thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword. So you see, Bazah, you divided his house. See, it was him and his wife. And you took her husband away from her and took him away from her. You did a lot of dividing. You despised. You attacked against what I had set in place. You attacked the marriage. That's me. I sanctify marriage. That's my thing. Right? Okay. And he says, and then you attacked somebody who was for Israel. That's my business. Remember when Levi and Reuben and I believe Simeon go out against the men of Shechem, right? Jacob was mad. He said, you use circumcision to kill people? Yeah, it's like you use the army, my host. Yahuwah Zavaot. Like, these are my host. You use them to kill one of their own? Oh, you've lost your mind. See, we was cool. We was doing until then. So he says, you used the sword, you killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and has taken his wife to be your wife, and has slain him. He said, not only did you slay him, but you couldn't even do it yourself. You didn't go out and kill him. You killed him with the sword of our enemies. With the Ammonites? You're like, the Ammonites? You played the coward. You did. Yeah, it says, now therefore, the sword shall not depart from thy house. People always ask me how, when you read the Bible, how you find Hebrew nuances. So the word bazah literally means to divide the house. And then in the text, the translation literally shows up as to divide the house. I always think that's really cool. This is just me. The more you read something, the more you become familiar with it, you'll see those little nuances. The scripture interprets the scripture. It's its own dictionary. And even in English, if we read it properly and we read it through a Hebraic lens, we can begin to see the things that are covered in some places. Yah is even like, they can't even hide that. I'm going to reveal it to you what it meant on this side. Like, anyway, he said, the sword is not going to depart from your house because thou hast despised me and has taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. Thus saith Yahuwah, behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of your own house. You see how his attack against Yah's house and Yah's word and what Yah has fortified, just it all turns back to his house. I don't know if you guys have read ahead, but David's house becomes ratchet in high levels. And that's just a nice word. It's a hot mess. And it all bottlenecks at this seemingly one small act to some people. It's huge. It's huge. So I'll raise up enemies against out of your own house, and I will take your wives before your own eyes and give them unto thy neighbor. And he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of the sun. Just to give you guys a conclusion to that, a spoiler alert, David's son does this. Like it's a mess. It's real nasty. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against Yahuwah. If you never loved David before, love him now. Because I told you, we prophet killers. Huh? I missed verse 12. Sorry. He said, for thou didst this secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel and before the sun. Thank you, Z. He literally was like, you did it in private, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do in public. Yah doesn't allow it. That secret sin thing. I tell people, I'm like, I've been there, done that. Like, I don't want to live in this world where I have to keep concealing and covering and concealing and covering and concealing. It will drive you literally crazy. Literally. It's so much better to live up here on the surface. I don't want to live with the shadow self. I'll tell people, I'm like, it's a practice. If you haven't, if it's something, maybe we could do a whole video series on this. I don't know. When you encounter your other self, check him or her immediately. Your brain goes, and don't be like, oh, I can't believe I'm thinking this. No, you thought it. Bring it right here. That was terrible. You're terrible. And Torah it. What does Torah say about this? And then put it away. It's so easy. It seems hard at first, but literally what's hard is suppressing. Like, I can't believe my brain went that. No, I can believe my brain went in that direction. I know I got me. See, me and my other self, that other self, me and the lesser me, the me before y'all got a hold of me. See, we had to have a lot of fights. It's like carrying around a dead body. Literally, it's like, you stink, sis. And then like this me is like, I'm so tired of carrying you. And y'all's like, drop it then. But then there's familiar things, like she might have on something you like, she's so, remember when she used to be fun though. And you're like, she's dead. Like literally, like, and when you put in that, you're like, well, how is somebody carrying a dead body? We do it all the time. It's like, you look back and you're like, but I like her. And there's little inordinate affections. You have meet and depart. Say, hey, it was nice knowing you, but I'm going this direction and you want to stay right here. And it's hard because it's like death. It literally is like death. That's why I say dead you. So when you go back and visit something you killed, it's kind of gross. It's like decaying and it's weird. And you're like looking at it like, what can she still got an earring I can wear? Like, it's like grave robbing. No, it's a complete, we have to, because Yah wants all dark things to be brought to the light. He's like, bring it forward. Let me have it. Let me deal with it. But we think I'm so vile. Like if Yah sees this, he's like, I already saw it. When I called you, when I asked you, when I literally said, hey, I'm gonna use like in the New Testament, he said, Talitha Kumai, little maiden arise. When he said, wake up, he was like, I already knew you was dead. That's how I had to wake you up. You thought you woke up from the woke up? You woke up from being dead. I already knew what you were doing killed you. I didn't come to you when you were whole. Well, I came to you when you were broken. He said, we've been going through the New Testament, so I probably have like a lot of like little Yahushua quotes. But he's like, I didn't come to destroy you yet. Right? He said, at that time will come. I'm coming for everybody. But right now I'm calling to draw you to repentance. He said, I didn't come. The physician doesn't come to the well. The physician comes to the sick. That's the whole point of a doctor. I'm Yahuwah Rapha. You remember that? Like, that's me. I'm here. Don't you want to get whole? And you're like, but this little thing I've been hiding, I don't want to give it to you. He's like, it's in that pocket under that piece of paper. Give it here. Like, it's not hidden. Like, I can see it clear as day. And we want to hold on to it. He's like, no. Give it to me, or I'm going to rip the lid off of it. Either you give it to me, or you're going to crack up online and start making videos about people. Give it to me. It is what it is. Give it to me, or I'm going to whoop you with it. It's coming out one way or another. That other self is going to overtake you. It says, if you feed that hidden thing, you're going to nurture it. And hiding it it's like mold. It's like death, right? When you hide it, it festers and it gets worse. No, get it out and wash it. But if you keep pushing it back and covering it with a Band-Aid, all of a sudden your whole hand falling off, take the Band-Aid off. Let the light hit the open, gaping wound so that it can be healed. Stop covering it. Let it out. Let it go. Why? You hold on to it, you're going to be dragging that dead body. And next thing you know, you're going to have Black Plague because the body going to kill you. Right? He's like, and when we think of Yah doing this, David, it's not just to do something, or us or anybody else. It's not just to do something to make us look bad. He's saying, somebody needs to see this, so somebody else don't do this. Like, either you're going to be with me, stumble and be an example for me, or I'm going to make an example out of you. Like, that's just what it is. So literally, David says, I have sinned. He was like, I'm not playing with Yah. He didn't do like Saul, right? Saul was like, and I kept the commandment of Yah, and I've done exactly what Yah said. He's like, then what are these lowing of oxen in my ear? Like, dude, The girl is pregnant. So you can't be like, what you talking about? No, he's like, fall on my face. I'm not worthy. It's out. No cover up game. No, how'd you find out about this? Like, it don't matter. It's nothing done in the dark stays in the dark. It's going to come to the light. Deal with it. You're either going to deal with it with or you're going to deal with it in front of everybody. It's better, and David's going to teach us about this in a little bit, to deal with it with Deal with it with Let him take you into his little private room. Like, I'm getting ready to whoop it. Like, yeah, a little bit, but I'm going to talk to you after too, right? And it's better for to take you into a private space and spank your bottom than have to whoop you in front of all your friends. I've had both done. In the physical and the spiritual. Not laughing about it. It's not to make light of it at all. It's just saying, like, it's real. Like, stop acting like we don't deal with things behind closed doors. And some things you can get a whooping for and you can get right. Like, I be need tuned up sometimes. I tell my kids, I call them my kids, but I do too. Y'all be like, oh, and you start crying. You be like, I can't be mad because I needed that. I feel better now. Like, sometimes whoopings be good for a little like reminder, like it get you straight. You like, now stop crying. Okay. And then you be like trying to hug now. Can I have a hug? If you have kids, you know I'm not lying. Like, why you like me more after I had to whoop you? Why couldn't you just do what I told you to do? Because the rod of correction, what drives foolishness out of the hearts of children. We're Yah's children. We got foolishness in our hearts. We got to get the rod of correction to pull it out of us. All right. So let's see what David says. Let's go on. Finish looking at what he says. Let him talk a little bit. He's like, I have sinned. Just like, I'm confessing against Yahuwah. See, sometimes we get so caught up. We don't want to be, we don't want our stuff exposed because we care more about what people think than what Yah thinks. He said, let me just get this straight. I sinned against Yahuwah. Like, point blank period. I know that the sin affected other people, but who it like put mud on his name is Yah. And that needs to be the first thing on our minds. Like, the reason why we can hide it is because we think we sin against people. I can hide it from you. I can hide it from you. And I can hide it from you. Can't hide it from Yah. And Nathan said unto David, so like David immediately heart just shattered. It wasn't even like, he didn't have any other words. I've sinned against Yahuwah. Like, it hit him like a ton of bricks. Like, I wasn't even thinking about Yah when I did this. That's the problem. Like, I've dealt with couples, with people who cheat, and they're like, I wasn't even thinking about her. That's the problem. I wasn't even thinking about him. That's the problem. That's the problem. That is the problem. Yah never comes up in the story to the end. You never once. Yah never even crossed your mind. Wasn't no like, You was like full steam ahead. And Nathan said unto David, Yahuwah also hath put away thy sins, and thou shalt not die. Because he knew he was good. That moment, David was like, I'm dead. Prophet's here. Yah knows. Ain't no denying it. I sinned against Yah. He was like the soul. He was just like, kill me. Like, I already know if that's what you came here to do, man. I deserve it. Ain't no fighting back. Ain't no. And he waited. Like, he didn't. Some of us, we just started. He started running off. He just was like, because Samuel chopped some Hebrews up, chopped some Amalekites up. Like, it wasn't. It wouldn't. Yeah. So he says, I have sinned. And Nathan said unto David, he has put away thy sin, thou shalt not die. The word for put away here is, it's the word aver. It literally means to cross over. Now, Pesach is a word to like pass over something, but this word for crossover meaning I'm going to cross over from you to something else. Aver is also the root word for the word evrit, which is the word for the actual Hebrew word for what a Hebrew is. So like evrit. So he says, howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of Yah to blaspheme. See, we don't think when we do things that it causes somebody else to blaspheme against Yah. So the other word I have here is the Hebrew word, and I'll write this one out too. It's the Hebrew word na'atz. 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 So it's Nun, Aleph, and it's Azadi Sofit. And it literally means to reject as worthless. He says, see, you have caused the enemies of me to see my word and reject it as worthless. We don't think that that's what happens when we don't obey Yah. People know your mind. They know I've been for you. And now they're going to take my word and just be like, oh, well, his word don't mean nothing. I can do whatever I want to do. Another root for that word also means, it's funny, it means that, and I wrote this down. I was like, I did not want this to seem disrespectful to Yah at all. But it literally means to hit metal together in order to produce sparks. Like literally you made them think that it's proper to come up against me. Like they can come for me. So I thought about, and I said, not that Yahuwah is like this, but I'll give you an example. Yah's not a thug. Yah's not a warlord. It's not that. Because you know in movies when you have like these warlords and they have people working for them and they're doing like that. This is the only thing that came to my mind. So if somebody has a better example, forgive me. But they're warlords and somebody comes and they steal something from them. Right? And they're like, man, I really liked you. You're like a brother to me. And then they kill him. And you're like, dang, that was like literally like his best friend. Why'd he do that? Because if I let you do it, then all of them gonna think they can do it. Sorry that it had to be a warlord. But you get the example, right? It's like, I really liked you. I'm king of the world. I'm the king of the universe. I literally care enough about the little blade of grass that grows up all the way to the giant elephant. I'm sustaining everything. If I let you trample over my word, heaven and earth will pass away. I can't have that happen. That means that my word doesn't stand. That means I put laws here, and because I like you, I let you break them. You know how many people I liked? She was like, I like the rich young ruler. It broke my heart, but he ain't gonna make it in the kingdom. It didn't change anything. He's like, let's change the rules, okay? You can come. Like that wasn't it. That was sad. Like you see what I'm. So Yah's like, no, not even for you. And that's how we have to be about Yah's word. Who do we have to say not even for you? Am I gonna? Not even for you. Mm-mm. Won't do it. No way. Not in a box. Not with a fox. I do not break them, Sam. I am. Like you just know, just absolutely not. So Yah was like, you gave the enemy occasion to come against me. But guess what I'm not gonna do? I'm not gonna let you trample over it. So they gonna come over you, but they gonna get here and they gonna find out it was the wrong one. That was the wrong one. And he wanted him to know that it wasn't okay. So when we get to, let me stop sharing over here. That was the word na'atz, to give the enemy occasion to blaspheme against me. So Yah's like, whew. He says, the child, see, we went down the line. He said, the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. I'm gonna get to that in a second. So at first, it's like, all right, y'all's chewing me out. I'm getting this whooping. My house. That's the future. I don't know how bad that's gonna be. But then this baby, you see, because David was like, man, I'll even pass this baby off for somebody else's baby. I don't want anybody killing my baby. So he wasn't like us, like kill the baby, just get rid of the baby, make all the problems go away. He's like, nope, I'd rather have to look out from my house and watch somebody else raise this baby than for this baby to die. And then I went through all this and the baby's still gonna die. There's no way we can circumvent Yah's law and then still feel like there's going to be something positive waiting for us on the other side of it. Just no. It's just not. Like, I think about, just getting personal for me. I think about despising, and not even a way to take a child's life, but just despising what my womb can do. Like, I don't want kids anymore. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do. We're done. We're done. Just like ignorant, like like super ignorant. Like, I'm done. I'm taking care of kids. I have things I want to do. I have a life I want to live. And you're older, so I have to have kids right now. So I'm done. And putting this out there. And then when you cross over that bridge and then you're done, you're like, dang it. Like, these kids are pretty cool. I wonder what the other ones would have been like, if there would have been more. And you make decisions thinking you're fixing something, and on the other hand, you arrive and you're like, I'm a pretty good mom. He's a pretty good dad. And we actually kind of like each other. And it wasn't going to always be like it was. So we didn't, like, and now you're sitting back and you got a little something and you're like, I got extra seats in my car and no kids to put in them. You do stuff thinking, like, and then you look out and you're like, there are people out there want kids that can't have them. And I got a perfectly functioning system, like fertile myrtle. And you do stuff because you think that's what's right for your life. Like, it says, that child, though, born unto you shall surely die. And Yah forbid. But then you think about the fact that, like, what if something happened to one of my babies? Not that you can replace one. But now I'm like, not only if something, I would never even be able to just even be comforted in the fact that, like, but okay, here's another one for the one you lost. None of that. Nathan was like Dave Chappelle when he when he gave that speech about the industry, drops mic. And Nathan departed unto his house. All right, ain't nothing to talk about. Ain't none of my business. That's y'all business. Y'all put me in y'all business, but I ain't really in y'all business. I'm going. So you be mad at the prophet, but he wasn't. Nathan passed no judgment. Nathan wasn't like, hey man, what would you? Nathan said what y'all said. And was like, you have a good night. And just left. He didn't, not a prophet killer. David's not a prophet killer. David loves Yah and he loves his word, even if it comes up against him. Whew. And Yahuwah struck the child. That Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. The baby was born fine. Wasn't nothing wrong with the baby. Perfectly normal baby. So he struck the child. Perfectly normal. And he said that Uriah's wife bore unto David. So he says this because how wombs and bodies work that belong to other people is when this child was conceived, that was Uriah's wife. So two things. So when we talk about the occasion of blasphemy, we know that David's line, right, is the line the Messiah is going to come through. Yah has done it more than once. When Abraham let Sarah, which was in that case, let Sarah go into the Egyptian's home, and he's like, Abimelech, and he's like, hey man, why you tell me this is your wife? And Yah shut up all the wombs. He was like, can't nobody say Sarah got pregnant by Abimelech? I gotta have something in there to be like, it wasn't no babies produced in the filming of this. No, like there was no babies produced at this time, right? It didn't happen. Yah does that. Same thing here. Not only does it cause twofold, the child can't live because of David's sin, but also if that child had lived, then people were like, the Messiah ain't really the Messiah. That's a Uriah baby. It's a Hittite Messiah. Give occasion for the enemy to blaspheme. You don't know how your one action right here can affect something literally thousands of years later. They already got stuff to say because his grandma Moabite, right? People got people. Oh, actually, okay, that's a lot. Okay. You got people like really coming. People are coming at every angle against the Messiah. Yah's like, I got a plan running, and you throwing slop in the game. Like, this can't happen. So you're going to give occasion for the enemy to blaspheme? I gotta write your story. This is not private business no more. Because somebody gonna say, well, he was sleeping with Uriah at the same time. It could be his baby. Baby can't live for 2 reasons. So he struck the child that Uriah's wife bare, and it was sick. And David therefore besought Yah for the child. Where here for besought means that he was seeking for a way out. It's interesting because David did not bakash is the word. He did not bakash Yah before. The way out was to never go in. He's like, how can I fix this? There was no fixing it. And David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of the house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. I have a very uncomfortable story I'm going to share with you guys, but I'm whole enough to tell the story. It is not an easy thing to watch a baby that had nothing to do with nothing die. Like, it is it is one of the most heartbreaking, heart-wrenching things to be a part of. Because, see, in our minds, we're like, I get it. Grown-ups die. We make grown-up decisions. I can die. No, I don't want to die, but I can die. But babies who've never, nothing, watching them go through that process is, it's one of the, I wrote it down. I'm going to use these words. It's one of the most tragically beautiful things you'll ever see. Beautiful because we don't have to worry in doubt about what happens to the child, right? But tragic because of all the hopes, dreams, and expectations that are in place for that child. So my very unfortunate situation, being part of the situation, was my sister. Sister had asthma attack, 9 months pregnant, perfectly functioning, moving baby, ultrasounds perfect. Baby's gonna be perfect. Looks just like the ultrasounds from the other baby. You're there. And my sister ended up passing of, she brain dead from lack of oxygen. She had asthma attack, couldn't breathe, make a long story short. And so they got the baby out. So in our brains, right? This is your human mind. You're like, okay, I can't take it, but I get it. People die. Everybody has to at some point. And we can't have her back. But at least we have the baby. You have this baby. This is like the last thing we have left. And I remember while my sister was in the hospital, I couldn't go see the baby. I had this like weird detachment. I was like, I don't know her, but I know her. And I need to be here for her so she can be okay for her. Like, I don't want to know her without her, right? Like, that was like my trauma-based mindset, of course. And after my sister passed, I was just like, okay, but I have her. I have this baby. And I remember the anxiety I had because I knew it was like, well, has a baby? We're like, well, she's moving a little bit, but it's not looking too good. But I was like, what's a baby? And babies are innocent. Like, I know what Yah can do for a baby. Like, I don't know how to pray for adults in that sense. I guess Yah's will be done. But for a baby, I can at least plead the innocence. I mean, we're all born into sin, but she didn't do nothing. She didn't even ask to be here. Like, and I remember going and riding in the backseat of the car. And my brother-in-law is driving and my mom's in the front seat. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, let's meet this baby, right? And we get there, and it was like a replay of the same stuff I had just had a conversation about a few days prior with the doctors about my sister. And they were like, but has she opened her eyes? Mm-mm. Okay. Let us take you in this room. And they go through this whole thing. And so we're in the room, and baby hooked up to a machine. And I'm like, what do we do? And it's funny because this story is the one that came to my mind. And I was like, do we just leave her here to die in the hospital, like over a slow period of time? What do we do? We can't hold her. We can't touch her. We can't do anything. And the doctor went through all these things, and he was like, eventually it's going to be the same way, sadly. I mean, he was like, we can leave her hooked up to machines, but it's the machine that's doing the work. She's not going to do anything eventually. Her lungs will go, and then her brain, and it's a whole thing. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I guess I was a little like desensitized, because I literally, if I could tell you how I felt in a sense, and I guess I probably see too many kids movies. Remember the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland when Johnny Depp plays him? He's just like completely like, like that. I was like, up is down, left is right. Nothing makes any sense at this moment. So, make a long story short, at the hospital, they have this thing called a butterfly room. And it's where they take babies to transition. And so they unhook the babies from the machines. They let you get them dressed. And then you pretty much hold them till they pass away. It could take days. It could take hours. It could take minutes. You really don't know. I remember sitting in this room. Mind you, I have probably never, ever gone through anything traumatic. My most traumatic experience, I mean, not really. Like, people who were older had passed, but I never knew anything like that. I remember sitting in a room, and it's me and the baby's maternal and paternal grandparents, my brother-in-law. And of course, my mom's a maternal grandparent. I'm sitting there and holding the baby, looking at her. She's taking breaths, like, pass her to the next person. They're holding her, and goes around, and my brother-in-law holds her, and he's like, me and your mom had, and he's going on, and I'm just like, I can't cry. Well, how can I cry? Like, but you're feeling all of it, right? And I'm like, you're just praying, like, when does the miracle happen? How do I bakash in this situation? And David's like, lay down on the floor. He's like, maybe. You look around the room, and you're like, that baby's gonna make it. And I remember, I'll tell you, this is probably the most racist thing I probably ever said, and so forgive me. But I was like, it's all these white babies in here. And there's all these other nations of babies in here. And then this one, like, she's mine. Like, not mine, but she's mine. And I'm mentored. I can't say anything. I don't have, like, I'm powerless. Like, what? I can't be like, yeah, this one, please. Where's the breathe into the child, like Elijah? Where is this moment? And I remember the baby coming. And I remember I was the last person to hold the baby. And looked down, and she wasn't breathing anymore. And I remember holding the baby, and I'm looking around. I'm like trying not to like freak out. Like, honestly, and I'm looking around everybody. I'm like, do I have to tell them? Like, my mom looked at me, and she was like, man comes in the room, and I'm still sitting here with this baby. And I mean, she looks the same, but there's no life there. And I remember standing up, taking the blanket, flipping it over the baby's face like this. And I had to carry her down the hall, back to the room. And because we dressed her, they don't take fully dressed babies to the morgue. You have to undress her. And I remember being the person, and everybody's like, nobody wanted to hold her after that, right? It's so interesting. I was like, why? It's like, there's nothing left. And I remember looking down. I'm like, I'm sure my mom would have, honestly. She's probably one of the bravest people I know in a situation like that. She knows how to keep going, keep going. And I was like, but you don't have to. Like, I get it. And I remember picking her up and holding her and pulling her pants down and just like limp arms, limp body. It's a little bitty tiny baby. And then I remember having to leave something that you had hopes and expectations for right there for somebody to take that body that was formed and fashioned by your own flesh and blood and then take it away. So when I read through this, I had to go through that moment. I was like, dang. And I remember thinking, not feeling it, because sometimes we understand things intellectually before our heart understands. I mean, like, Yah give it, Yah taketh away. Blessed be the name of Yah. That part can't change. So let's look at what David says. And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. And the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, is the child dead? And they said, he is dead. It's a little boy. Then David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel and came into the house of Yahuwah and worshiped. He said, okay, I'm still alive. I'm still here. I have to serve. See, it's difficult to serve in trauma, and especially in the midst of a traumatic experience. It was traumatic. And he got up and anointed himself like, now I'm not just doing it for me. My baby died because of me. Now I serve because I understand it's bigger than me. See, I played it small, kind of. I didn't see myself as somebody that could affect somebody else or somebody else's life or somebody else's. We don't see it like that. I'll tell you another thing, just because I'm on the street and I told you it's, why not? Well, my sister was, how old was my sister? 15. My sister got pregnant. I'm 3.5 years older than my sister. I think I was 18 at the time. And I guess if she was alive, I wouldn't tell the story because we kind of putting her business out there, but she's not. So it's my business now, Dale. And she came to me. And so we have a specific amount of trauma. My mom was 15 when she had me. And she came to me and she's like, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, okay. Like, I don't want this baby. But I knew, and I knew the back of my hand what the Bible said. I had read the Bible way before I was 18, probably more than once. And I was like, so what do you mean? I'm gonna get an abortion? Like, you're 15. How you gonna do that? And she's like, I don't want this baby. I'll go by myself then. I'll do da-da-da. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm not gonna let you go by yourself though. And I remember asking her, well, where do they do that? Like, I'm so dang naive as an 18-year-old. My sister, sadly, it's very sad. That was the nature of our relationship. She always knew more than me. Always. I hadn't had sex. I didn't know anything. I mean, I knew people got pregnant, but I was so green, honey child. I wish I wasn't at sometimes that green. So I'm like, well, you're a sister. And these are the traumas that Black families put on Black family and Black children, because we are supposed to cover and protect, even when we know things are wrong. We're supposed to go with them to the ends of the earth, right, wrong, and indifferent, because we're all we got, right? But we're never taught how to resist. We're never taught how to say no. We're never taught how to say, I don't want to. We're never taught how to explain something or to not stand with them and deal with what it feels like for somebody to be upset with you when you tell them, no, this is not what we're going to do. And I'm telling, we're taught how to keep secrets. We're taught how to cover sin with love, but not knowing that we're actually creating a whirlwind effect for later. And I remember getting in the car and I'm talking to her. Like, you don't have to, like, we can, like, I'm 18, like, I can get a job. Like, this is me. I'm so that person. I have always, that's just me. Like, we can do this. Like, mom's not gonna, like, she had me when she was 15. How's she gonna come for you? Like, my mom was not that mom, and she probably expected it. And she was like, no, he doesn't want this baby. And she went through this whole thing. And I remember pulling up in the parking lot. I said, I don't agree. I'm not going in with you. If this is what you want to do. Now, mind you, she's 15, so I'm so stupid. Like, if this is what you want to do, you have to do this by yourself, right? That was my level of conviction. Like, oh, how righteous you are. You drive her to the place, but then you're not going to go in with her. What a coward, right? And I remember sitting in the car, and I will never forget this. She comes out and she's screaming. Like, I didn't want to do this. And I freaked out. Like, I was like, well, why did you do it? Like, I don't. And we're standing there. I'm like, go ask them if you can do, like, because she went with, it was so early. It was like the plan B, but it's a little different than plan B, because it's plan B is like before anything happens. This is like, you take this pill now, it starts to process, take this later, and it'll pass just like you have a regular period. So it seemed like the humane thing to do. Like, there's any humane way to murder, right? And I remember the look on her face and her scream, and it just went down to my soul. And I just was like, huh, I can't believe this. Like, I'm like mad at her, but what can we do now? It's already done. And so I remember going home and I'm like, you can sleep in my room tonight because I have to watch you. We pick up prescription from the hospital. Mind you, since when does a 15-year-old not need consent to get an abortion? She's 15 or 16, I think, but not 18 because I'm older than she is. And I remember her sleeping in my room and her crying, and she's in pain because they don't tell you that it's actually like giving birth. It's like you start the process, the contractions, and it's a baby forming there. I didn't know how far along. I knew nothing about how far along she was. I told you I didn't know. I think sometimes had I gone, because they have to check, heard a heartbeat, I'd be like, let's go. No, we got to think of something else. But trying to detach ourselves from sin, but also participating in it is the Christian thing to do. And is the sickening moral thing to do. And I remember her laying there and my mom comes in because she's in pain. And mom was like, what did you guys do? And I finally had to tell my mom. I could tell my mom was so broken. Like, you couldn't trust me. Mom is very open. Most of you in the space know that. You didn't come to me. You took it upon your child selves to solve an adult level, a mommy level problem. And all she could say was, well, now you deal with it. You sit with her, you guys deal with it. It was one of those things we never talked about ever again. But I think in so many ways, it really fractured my relationship with my sister, because it's like, you're my big sister. You're supposed to protect me, even from me, right? And then on top of that, like, it wasn't something you wanted to do. Come to later on, she gets pregnant again. She has my nephew, like, right after that. So it was like, what was the point? Like, not that there would have been a point. And I remember, I'm fine, sitting in that room with that baby. And that's the only thing I could think of, like, life for life. Like, you get to see what you thought was something small looks like, but now you understand it. I need you to see something about what your sin all the way back there. I'm not saying that that's why the baby passed. But I'm saying can affect right now. I can't hear you on this one, Huldah. I can't. Because see, I'm just. And see, I can't hear you on this one because of that one. So no, your prayers right now, I got a deaf ear because I'm just, I didn't take you. So guess what? You owe me. You owe that baby. You owe her. Like, how things can be so small in our minds, but then become so big and so significant. So when David goes and he washes and he anoints himself, he's like, because I knew then who I was. At 14 years old, I knew who I was. So yeah. And probably before then, but I knew I could articulate it. I knew I was different. I knew my decisions had to be different. I knew my choices had to be different. And still then we still make mistakes and we still do stupid stuff, right? Because it's like, like, Nathan, did I really hear that from you? Maybe I'm just crazy. Like, we don't know. It's a constant revelation. But in that moment, now you wash and you anoint yourself and you have something you need to do. Because now you've seen it come full circle. Even back then, I held you accountable because you knew me. You knew me like you knew me. You knew better. So he says, is the child dead? He changes apparel and he worshiped. Then he came into his own house. And when he required, they set bread before him and he did eat. See, because we have this thing, we beat ourselves up about our sin. And what it does, it immobilizes us. See, the adversary's greatest tie on us is that we get caught up on that moment and then we stop being who we're supposed to be. It didn't stop that David was anointed. Yeah, I already told him I'm not going to kill you. Why? You owe me service still. We still got some things we got to do for them. It's bigger than you. So I can't, if I kill you right now, then all that stuff we did, I used you to subdue enemies, to gather, all fortifying Israel, getting them together, my nation's not split, becoming one, so that all that, no, you're not that important. Not important enough for me to just say, let's throw it away. No. You still owe me. Now, if David would have been a different kind of fellow, y'all know I don't care about any of that. I will destroy you and all this. He said it before. He said to Moses, hey, Moses, I'll work with just you. I'll kill all of them. So that's not that guys have been there, but he understood something. He still is going to serve me. This is a big moment right now in his process, but it's going to lead to a greater ending and a greater story. And so he anoints himself and he sits down and he's going to eat. Then his servant said unto him, right? What thing is this that thou hast done? They're like, they tripping out. They're like, I've been here the whole time. I saw you crying, fasting, praying, not caring about how you look. They said, thou did fast and weep for the child while it was alive. But when the child was dead, thou didst rise and eat bread. Like, this seemed backwards. Like, shouldn't you just die with the child? He's like, you don't get it. And he said, while the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, who can tell whether Yah will be gracious unto me? The word hin to me, that the child may live. He said, while he's alive, he can still live. He said, but now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast? So all this fasting for the dead, that's not our culture. Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him. He said, I'm going to die one day, but he shall not return to me. And then the verse says, and David comforted Bathsheba, his wife. This is the first time that Bathsheba is called David's wife. And we learn something about David's heart right here. You see, David wasn't just this, sugar daddy or something going out trying to find all these women. His whole disposition changed. Y'all softened him again. See, she got pregnant last time. He didn't even send for her. He was like, go get you right. He was like, hey, you okay? Like, go get him. Now it's a different thing. He's like, a lot of people have been affected by what I've done. See, what we like to do when we sin, we be like, get her out of here. I don't ever want to look at her again. It's just a reminder of all the stuff that I've been through. That wasn't David's mindset. David was like, I have to restore her too, just like y'all restored me. And I have to show her, because she probably was wondering, like, he's going to hate me. I'm going to live the worst life ever. Like, because that's what we would do to people. Oh, let somebody get caught up in sin with us. It don't matter what it is. Just let them see you doing something you ain't got no business doing. You want to be like, I ain't never talking to you again. You ain't my friend no more. Because I don't want anybody to ever know that I was here and that this was what I was doing. And we'll just throw the whole person away. Right? David wasn't like that. He was like, I get it. Like he got it. He was like, I have to restore her too. So he goes in, and the text says he comforted her. So he didn't just have sex with her. He was there. He sat, listened, talked. Why? Because he understands what it's like to have a void. See, that was Bathsheba's firstborn child. Like, that was a lot. Like, of all the things that happened, like, that was a lot. That's the kind of stuff that makes women never recover from. Like, ever. Like, I did something. I had a baby and the baby died because of it. Like, you have to feel like something's wrong with you. Like, it's just like you don't, that's something that psychologically, like, is a hard hurdle to cross over. And so we know that in him comforting her, it wasn't just a pat on the back. It was like, no, I have to now, I got to get to know her. I don't even know her like that. I got to become intimate with her. I need to help her heal through this process. I can't send a servant in. Oh, you good? You need some food? You want a new dress? You want to go ride a horse? Oh, you want me to buy you a chariot? Like, it wasn't that situation. There was nothing that could fill that void. Nothing. And so it says he goes in and he comforted Bathsheba, his wife. The word here is the word naham, to console her, to be sorry. A man, a black man, a Hebrew, sorry about something and expressing it. See, this is not some hardened post-traumatic slave situation. He's showing that, no, when you break something, you're intimate in the process of fixing that thing as well. And then he goes to her and he consoled her. And he had to console her in the word. There was nothing that David can say. There's nothing that anybody can say to you when you lose somebody. He had to come to her in the word. Like, dang, I'm this one, that same person that was breaking Yah's law has to now come and console using his law and his word to say, it's going to be okay. It's like, this is why it's going to be okay. But this is what we have to do now. Like, this is what our life has to, this is what our marriage has to look like. David ain't really been married to nobody yet. Like, he's taken wives, but he's never like given himself to somebody. And so in the previous text, I'm going to read, he says that she came to him. He's all, and you, right? But here he's going to say he comforted her. It's intimate. And he went in unto her. He came to her like, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to give you me. I'm going to make a promise to you. Now, spoiler alert, he makes his promise to her so sure that before he dies, she comes to him and bows herself and says, remember what you said to me about my son? And David gets up. He was so old, he couldn't even keep his body temperature right, and gets up and makes sure that her son becomes king. That's Solomon. He loved her. Like, loved her. Took a lot, but he did. So he says he went into her and he lay with her and she bare a son and he called his name Solomon. So he said his name is Solomon. He's like, peace. Like, that's all. Just peace. Like, after everything, like, that's all he could think about was just like restitution. He took one. He didn't have to, but he restored unto me. And he names the child that. But Yah says, I don't even want your sin and what you want. I don't even want that on him. I don't even want, it was funny that we still call him Solomon, but I don't even want that to be something he has to carry as his trauma. I don't want him just to be the baby that came after the baby. Because to me, it says he called him Solomon and Yah loved him. So this thing that we do in our culture where we try to like shun some kids and not others. And I've had that. I'm my husband's third wife. Whoa, write a book about it. Third. And when we got ready to have children, when the discussion happened, the process, people came to me and they were like, you have no right to have children. And then his family literally didn't want to see my kids. They shouldn't even be here. They're really Christian, like the real kind, the kind with all their own little secret sins and stuff. Yeah. So anyways, literally that was the deal. They shouldn't even be here. So we don't want anything to do with these children. No, different tune today because my children are amazing, but different tune. But that was where they were. That's the thing people do. See, Yah was like, see, I see him. I know him. And I see her heart. And I see what they've done in this process. And so while y'all can all say, look at this is the whore's child, or this is X, Y, and Z, I love that baby. And he loved him so much. And I'm sure Nathan is like, this is my job. And he sent by the hand of Nathan the prophet, and he called his name Jedediah. Yah. And it means because of Yah. It literally means the beloved of Yah. He gave him a name like after his daddy. He's like, no. He's not just restitution. I love him just like I love you. Like, dang. Like, that's the kind of Yah we have. I just feel like we have to just like sit on that for a moment. Like, really sit on that. Like, he was like, I get it. A lot of stuff happened, but I'm not through with you yet. And so it says, and Joab fought against Rabbah and the children of Ammon. So the story seems like it's like everything kind of just like goes back to normal, I guess. Not so much. So it's getting ready to go into the war, and David's going to show up. But I want to bounce back to something really quick before I read that. Let's look at Psalm 51. Because I think there's no way to end that without seeing how it transformed David and how it transformed Bathsheba and how he did, like the scripture says, and he literally washed her in the word. He renewed his covenant with Yah. He was like, oh, no. I can't be separated from Yah. We're going to read all of Psalm 51 with the mind now of the story, of the rundown. Psalm 51 to the chief musician. This is David. He hands this psalm to the musician. Imagine, once again, this community being the musician that gets the psalm. You're like, oh, okay. A psalm of David when Nathan the prophet came unto him after he had gone into Bathsheba. Okay. He says, have mercy upon me, O Yah, according to thy loving kindness. According unto the multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgression. I don't know if y'all know what blotting out means. You ever spill something on something? Something you really like that white pantsuit, the cream one with the jacket and pants to match, and you're pressing it because you like, if I rub it, I'm gonna smear it because it's real. It's wine, okay? It's wine. You've been wine on it. If I rub it, I'm gonna smear it. In this case, it's blood. So you just press it because you want to just absorb it into something else so that you can throw it away. That's what he's asking. Can you just press on this a little bit and absorb it and throw it away? Can you blot it out? But can you be gentle about it? Because I can't take this right now. I can't take the vigorous. I'm tender. Can you just like pat on it a little bit? So he's asking. He said, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity and cleanse me from my sin. He's like, I'm layered levels of dirty. I need to be blotted, but I also know I'm gonna need some washing too. And then I need to be ultimately cleansed. And the idea of cleanse is to declare clean, to say like, okay, you're whole, make me whole again. He said, for I acknowledge my transgressions and my sin is ever before me. Against thee, the only have I sinned. See, I think what hurts people's feelings sometimes when people come at you for being a sinner, they don't even know how to come at you. See, nobody knew the story I told earlier, but if old girl would have got on TV and told that, I would have felt something. I was like, that was y'all coming for me. I know my story. I know what the truth of things are. See, he's saying like, you and you only, you know the stuff that sinks ships kind of stuff. But you'll wait long enough for me to tell my own story and you won't give it to my adversary. And he says, against thee, thee only have I sinned and done this evil in thy sight, that thou mayest be justified when thou speakest. You're like, so that when you do something, you're justified in what you do, and be clear when thou judges. Behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Behold, thou desireth truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part, thou shalt make me to know wisdom. See, that's your goal. You're trying to break me. Purge me with hyssop. It's a cleaning agent. It's an antiseptic that our culture used. And I shall be clean. He's like, I need the physician. Wash me and I shall be whiter than snow. Make me to hear joy and gladness. See, when we transgress, the joy of our salvation seems to be a very distant thing. I didn't know. I was like, I know I believe ya, but I don't know anything else at this moment. Joy. What is joy? Right? David, joy. I just want to be that place again where I'm good with you and you good with me. And I feel it because you feel way over here and I feel way over here. He's like, no, make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which thou hast broken may rejoice. Hide thy face from my sins. Like he's like, yeah, I saw that. When we think about the stuff that Yah has seen us do, it literally, I don't know about you, makes me want to, like, it's like your daddy walking in on you in the middle of something you had no business doing. I can't even look you in the face. He's like, please don't look at it. It's too, you perfect, me, like, just don't even turn that direction. And he says, and blot out mine iniquities. Use that blot out again. Create in me a clean heart. He's like, see, my issue is that my authority within is messed up. Clean it up, fix it, restore it. I have different things that are pulling on me. You should have the reins, but I got a bit in my mouth and sin is pulling me this way and I'm turning. And you pulling me this way and I'm turning and I don't have no blinders on. So my eyes are over here. He's like, hey, the authority within, the reins, grab those, clean them up and put the ones you want me to have. And renew. Let me make sure I got the right word here. I'm on verse 10. It says, and renew in me a right spirit. So renew a right spirit within me. Let me just make sure. So he's saying literally, it's like to bring something around, to like hadash. It means to actually bring it new, to bring it back to the beginning. Take me back to my beginnings, right? Right to that fresh start point. A right spirit within me. A right spirit within me. He said, cast me not away from thy presence. He said, don't get so repulsed with me that you don't even want me in your presence. He said, don't, please cast me not away from your presence. He says, and take not thy ruach from me. He's like, look, I can deal with a lot of things, but that I can't. He says, don't take your set apart spirit from me. Why? I've seen it. I've seen what it does to people when you're done with them. I don't want you to be done with me. I can't live if you're done with me. Your presence, your spirit away from me, I can't. He says, okay, and if when you do that, verse 13, then will I teach transgressors thy ways. Look, I'll tell it, and I'll teach people to do it right from now on. But can you just make sure we're good? Can we, if we're good and your ruach is with me, I don't care about me. I don't care if preserving me. No, I'll tell them. I'll tell them about it. I'll tell them how you've let me overcome, and I'll tell you how this works, and I'll explain it. I don't have to guard me. If you have me, it's better than the world against me, but I can't deal with having the world for me and then you're against me. What does that matter if everybody says I'm a great person, but then you are looking at me like you vile and repulsive thing? He's like, no, I can't do that. He said, and sinners shall be converted unto thee. See, because of my testimony and because of what you brought me through, then sinners will be converted unto thee. He said, deliver me from blood guiltiness. So he wasn't like, deliver me from sex. He's like, I killed. Oh yeah, thou Elohim of my salvation. I murdered relationships. I murdered parts of people that they'll never get back. I was responsible for killing. My own son is dead. Like, so I'm just a little sidebar. So can you imagine when Shimei was like, you bloody man? And David was like, let him live. David, anyways, we'll get there. He's like, I'm struggling to pull it back together here. And you gonna try to come at me over something that me and Yah already straightened out? People will do that to you. Be careful that you don't sin against Yah. When people call you out about stuff that you already know you are, you telling me something I don't know. Like, let him live. It's okay. Maybe Yah is having him, making sure that my heart is right about this situation. Deliver me from blood guiltiness, O Yah, thou Yah of my salvation. He said, and my tongue shall sing aloud of thy righteousness. Ain't nobody gonna be able to shut me up, right? O Yah, open thou my lips, and my mouth shall show forth thy praise. For thou desirest not sacrifice, else would I give it. He's like, I got sheep, goats, lambs. I got lots of stuff. I get it. That wasn't going to fix it, because if I was the case, I could have been able to sacrifice and cover that child. That wasn't it. He's like, it's not what I'm looking for. He said, I get it now. Thou delightest not in burnt offering. So y'all over here thinking I'm right with y'all because I keep all statutes and commandments, but you wicked in your heart. He's like, yeah, no, try again. What is it? He says, the sacrifices of Yah are a broken spirit. See, because your spirit is strong. It wants to do what it wants to do. And have you ever seen an animal with a lot of spirit, a spirited animal, like mainly horses, we see it, right? And they're running, they're free. Mustangs, they can't be tamed, right? He's like, no, what you want me to do is, even though I, yes, am spirited, that I will literally bow down at your feet and know that, like, one, you can break me. You can break me. And you're only asking me to bend. You can literally like break me, and I'm broken, and I get it now. Like, you didn't have to be as gentle as you were being with me. Like, you could have like applied pressure until I was like completely undone. And he's like, but you weren't trying to you want to just break my spirit, and not to break my spirit to leave me like some shallow person, but to give me yours. What's bigger than that? Like, Yah wants to give you his ruach. in exchange for yours, but you rather keep your raggedy self. He's like, I get it. You want me to be so broken that I understand that that's what I need. Like, I'll break it so it can't be fixed. Break me so I can never go back and grab that dead version of me. It's so shattered and so gone and so decomposed, so in the past, that when I turn back, there's nothing to see. And all I can do is stand and see you working in me. He says, a broken and a contrite heart, oh yeah, thou will not despise. This word for contrite, give me 1 second. It's dakha. Dakha. It means a crushed. Like he's like, it just needs to be done. Like to powder, to non-existence, to there's nothing to put the pieces back together with. I don't want to put the pieces back together. I don't want to be rebuilt back into an old version. That's what was a problem with the temple. If they would have just got them right, and would have dedicated themselves back to Yah, then that rebuilding and crying because it didn't look like it did in the first place. No, once it's broken, it ain't no fixing it. We do that all the time. We want to glue stuff back together. Let it stay broke. Let's start over. He's like, let's just go all the way back to the beginning. Take me back to the sheepfold with the sheep when it was just me and you, and help me get it back together. We want to keep picking up from where we left off. There's no picking up from where you left off. That's why we move forward fragile. We're fragile trying to Humpty Dumpty it back together again. And he's like, leave the pieces and let me give you a new heart. Let me start over. I am the heart doctor. I am the great physician. I don't need the old pieces to do something new. I can start all over. Virgin birthers. Okay. Shots fired. Do good in thy, he says, do good in thy good pleasure unto Zion. He's like, and by the way, it's not even about me no more. It wasn't about me from the beginning, but it's not about me. He's like, and whatever you want to do though, make sure it's for them. I'm not doing this for me. Like, make sure that I know and that Zion knows that it's for them. Like whatever you're doing for me, if it's going to make them more whole, if it's going to make them better, if it's going to divide and bring together, then I'm in your service. He said, build thou the walls of Jerusalem. He's like, he said, fortify them. If it means that tearing me down means to build them up, I'm for it. Fortify their walls so they're protected against the same things that have come against me and that I've done. And he says, and then shalt thou be pleased. He said, no, don't forsake the offering now. Right? We still have work. We still have something to do. We have to still show, right? You don't say, and now I'm good. No, he's like, no. First of all, I want you. Now I want your service. I don't want you broken serving me. I want you whole to serve me. So that when you serve me, it's a representation of what I need it to be. He says, then shalt thou be pleased with the sacrifices of righteousness, not the sacrifices of bulls and goats. Sacrifice of literally, tell people, we have that idea of righteousness all messed up. Righteousness is not a person that just dresses modest, and a person that walks and talks like this. It's highly educated and oh no, I don't do that, and I've never been there, and the club. What is that? That's not it. Hiding sin is not righteousness. You know what a righteous person looks like? A righteous person looks probably a little lot different than we think. Righteous person is a hunter, right? It's like, oh yeah, I know the woods back there. I can show you how to get from here to here. I can tell you where not to stop too, because I stopped over there one time. And you might be like, you little motley, right? Should I even trust you? No, hear me out. Like, so he's like, he's a hunter. He's like, I can show you how to hunt. I can show you how to eat. Why? Because I've been hungry before, right? Like, you look at their hands and they got like blisters because they didn't held a bow and arrow before. They got little cuts, like a little tape around the tip of their fingers. You're like, oh, he's dangerous. Like, that is righteous. A righteous person is a hunter, right? And so in the spiritual world, they're a hunter after Yah's righteousness. Like when you see him, it's like that person is fierce and locked and loaded onto what Yah wants. Like they hear a little rustle in the bush and they be like, let me get this first, right? It's like, I'm not worried about this. I'm the hunter now. I'm not being hunted. I'm not prey. I'm now hunting after Yah's word. I'm pressing toward, like Paul says, toward the mark. What is the mark? It's a target. It's Torah. And literally, I've been shooting at it for a while. And you watch that person shoot, you've seen an archer shoot, and you like, and then you try to grab the thing and shoot, and you can't even pull the reins back. And they're like, yeah, you got to get that muscle right here. And so they're like, pull. And you pull until eventually, like, okay, I'm pulling this. And you're hunting. You're like, I'm exercising my ability to consistently pull and aim at a target until when I pull, I can turn my head. And I'm so used to hitting it, I can close my eyes and it hits it right on the mark. It's so in me. It's muscle memory, right? He's like, that's righteousness. See, everybody always talks about the arrow hitting the target, but they never talk about the person and how much it took for them to have to fortify to be able to hit the target. It's not just the arrow. It's not just the target, but it's the work that the person on the other side of the bow has to do to be able to stand. Now imagine being able to stand and hit it with no pressure. We could probably all be able to do that within a few weeks. Imagine hitting it and people are throwing things at you and the world around you is falling apart. And there's lions, there's tigers, and there's bears, and there's enemies, and there's prey. Now I'm not just hitting, right? I'm not just trying to hit a target, but imagine if the person or the thing on the other side of the target is the old you. Kill that. That's righteousness. Can you kill that for me? Can you kill you for me? Preservation of life is high. Can you die for me? And I'm not talking about, we can all die. We all gonna die, but can you die right now in this world to you for me? See, most of us ain't bad enough to pull the trigger. We ain't bad enough to shoot the shot. Not there yet. He's like, then shalt thou be pleased with sacrifice of righteousness. You are the sacrifice. Lay you down like Isaac. Isaac was a grown man. He wasn't no baby bound up. He was a grown man. He's like, I'm gonna lay down. It's okay. I know what it is. Can you do that? Lay you down on the altar. Take it. The Mashiach showed us that. That's the goal. Be lifted up, be crucified, crucify you so that you can be reborn again and be that version of the self that you always wanted to be. That's righteousness. See, we just keep trying to aim at the law. He's like, no, the law is what trains the aimer. The shot is kill you. That's the shot. Take the shot. Take the shot. Shoot it, right? Take the shot. And most of us go, and we got the strength to do it. We got it, but we can't take the shot. I can't let that go. Can't let it go. He's like, okay. But until you are able to do that, he's like, I'm not pleased. He says, but then thou shalt be pleased with the sacrifice of righteousness, with a burnt offering and whole burnt offering. Then you're worthy to bring the other stuff. And he says, then shall they offer bullocks upon thine altar. Let's go back and let's finish it up. It gets heavy and then it just gets like, it gets a little hallelujah-y, I guess. So let's go to 2 Samuel. Chapter 12, toward the end, to the latter end. And it says, verse 26, and Joab fought against Rabbah of the children of Ammon and took the royal city. And Joab sent messengers to David and said, I have fought against Rabbah and have taken the city of waters. Now, therefore, gather the rest of the people together and encamp against the city and take it. He said, lest I take the city and it be called after my name. He was like, you got to come out. And David gathered all the people together and went to Rabbah and fought against it and took it. And he took their king's crown from off his head, and the weight thereof was a talent of gold with the precious stones. And it was set on David's head. See, the adversary wants you to stop, because he's like, if you stop, then I can get all these borders back. And he's like, nope, I get it now. I was supposed to be out there. Why? Because the enemies of Yah come against his people. And I have to make sure that I fulfill my duty, which is to fortify these borders for the people. He says at the end, he's like, build the wall of Jerusalem. He's like, I get it. It's about the wall. It's about the people within the walls. And it's about my duty to those people. He returns back to his job. See, this Christian mindset has people mess up. And when you sin, sit down and think about your sin and then come back. No. See, that's pride. We don't see that as pride. We see that as humility. It's false humility. You wasn't worthy to stand there in the first place. So the fact you think you can like come to sit down and get righteous and come back and serve, you're not worthy to serve. You'll never be worthy to serve. So go back. When you sin, fix it according to my law, and you get right back to work. Because guess what? You can sit down long enough and be, woe is me, and then pity yourself and the devil, and then you'll never do anything ever again. He's like, don't let the devil play you. I got stuff. I get the wall, Jerusalem, Zion. That's what needs the word. That's what needs to be fortified. That's what needs the wall. That's what needs protection. Go back to doing that. He wasn't afraid for his life. He's like, I got this. Got a whole new, I got it. He goes out there, and then they set the crown on his head. And in our culture, the crown represents authority. It was shown like, don't think for a second that Yah was like, and I'm done with David. He's like, no. Put it on his head so that people know. And so everybody knows, yeah, he went through a lot, but guess what? That one right there, that's mine. See that? Not only is he crowned inside, but I'm gonna crown him on the outside so everybody can see it. So you can say, oh, you got to say about him, but you see that on him? I did that. Then you become Yah's crown jewel. Like, yeah, I know. It was like in the diamond and the ruby was down had to chip the stuff away, but wait till I polish it up. Everybody gonna want that, but they can't have that. That's yours. But I can do that for you, and I can do that for you, and I can do that for you if you let me. Right? And he brought forth the spoil of the city in great abundance. Yah picks up right where he left off. How long have we beat ourselves up about stuff? And Yah's just like, if you just come back, we can literally, I can get you right. And we can start back right where we left off at. You over here in the corner. I've still been right here. I haven't even given your task to somebody else. I remember feeling like that. Like when you go through stuff, you're like, oh, I guess, I'll just find somebody else. He's like, actually, I just want you. That's a hard one. Like me, like David, like what me? And I want to do it with you, because if I do it with you, then they really know that I've done something. I could do it with somebody better than you. That's the same reason why he chose Israel. He was like, all the other nations are stronger than you. It's flat out and straight up. He was like, I chose you because you need a lot of work, and people gonna really know I did something when I get y'all together. Because people already know y'all can't stay